next on the horizon for True North pedals? Then what have you got planned?
Well, it's this circuit. I'm slowly working it out. You can see there's a few wires hanging out of it, so I'm not totally happy with it. So there's going to be a few more mods, a little bit of work done to that one yet. And then I think for right now, I say right now anyways, I think the overdrive section will be, I'm going to let it ride for a little bit, just focus on building it. But I want to learn, and this is going to stretch my head a lot, want to get into a little bit of DSP, working on the digital side of, getting a delay out or something. Because, I mean, that's like we originally said, U2, The Edge, I loved that delay sound.
Yeah.
And I don't have one of my own. I've used there's a couple other designers that I've used that are good with DSP and programming and stuff like that. I've thought about getting into the analog, kind of like the analog delays and stuff like that, but those chips are so expensive, and you can only do one. I mean, you can tweak the tone a little bit and stuff like that, but I don't know. Again, it's my desire to have versatile pedals. So getting into the DSP might be the way to go, but.
Well, they are worlds apart, aren't they? Digital delay and analog delay. They are just completely different beasts, aren't they? I mean, inherently, I play a lot of my analog delay, but just sometimes then you just switch it off and then you just put the digital delay on, and it's like, it just makes me smile because you get all that, everything's all nice and precise and sparkly and everything else, and it's they're just very, very different, aren't they?
Yeah, and I have, as a gear collector, have never actually owned an analog delay pedal, which is sad. So that's why I have never really gotten into designing one. But then you have guys like Wampler and Keeley, those guys, who else is there doing digital delays? I have the Keeley Echoes, which it emulates the old tape delays. When you hit the flange on it, it gives kind of that flanging sound, but only on the repeat. That's where I'm like, do I want to get into digital delays? Because my skills are down here, and there's guys up there programming, that they get so much better results. So I mean, you got to start somewhere.
That'll be interesting. And so where did you, I mean, the pedal industry has changed quickly, I think, over the last 5 years or so, hasn't it? Do you see I mean, I've heard a few people say we're kind of almost in the golden age at the minute. Do you think the golden age is going to continue? Where do you see the pedal industry going?
I think, it will obviously change. Digital effects have come so far, with the Line 6 and the Helix and fractal stuff is so much better than the old jelly beans that Line 6 used to put out. Back in the day, the pods were people were using them on stages, to get their sound, plugging straight in. And now you listen to them and it's like, oh, they're horrible. How can you use those? I think, but then again, I find it always comes full circle. I started off with the Boss ME6, graduated to the Mesa Boogie V Twin as most of my overdrives, and then I sold that regrettably. But I got into rack mount gear, which was all digital Rocktron Chameleon. That was 24-bit digital. And now, it comes, then all of a sudden people got back into pedals. So I think there's always an ebb and flow kind of to the industry. Now, just from watching, people, a year or so ago, everybody was getting the latest fractal or the latest, the latest Line 6, and saying, that's it, I'm selling all my gear. Well, now suddenly they're buying pedals again, because they missed that. that tactile function, you know, of just getting there and turning a knob and affecting their tone or affecting their speed right away.
Yeah, I think it does. The process of creating the sound or the device to create the sound changes, but in essence, we all like changing the sound of the guitar and the different sounds you can get. I remember years ago, a friend of mine, I was playing in a band, and he had one of the what was it? A Roland VG8, the guitar synthesizer.
Yeah.
And it was a phenomenal piece of kit. It had the little bit, the bridge pickup that you use, and he had it routed into the guitar, and he had a beautiful Jackson at the time. And I was very fortunate that he, you know, because I was just starting out, I hadn't got any gear that I have now and stuff. And yeah, this Roland VG8 was phenomenal. You know, if there was a trumpet solo needed to play, I could play it, you know, and it sounded like a trumpet. It was phenomenal. But you don't, and that was big at the time, but you just don't see that sort of thing now, you know. No. And trends change, don't they? It's like reverb. Who'd have thought? I mean, probably 20 years ago, you probably got plate reverb, spring, hall, room. Pretty much it.
Yep.
Then they added shimmer on the top. Now you're getting octaves in it. And now all of a sudden you've got ambient reverbs, which you've effectively creating almost like an orchestral background with you. And that's the thing at the moment, isn't it? And who'd have thought that reverb, just a simple effect like reverb, would have changed that way?
Yeah. Somebody trying to capture when they play their amp live in a stadium or a bar or whatever. It's like, well, how can I get that sound just anywhere? You know, I mean, that's what Gilmour did with his solo setting up in Wembley. You know, I don't get the reverb that I want, you know, so how do I create it? So
he needed a big Sky, didn't he? He needed a Strymon Big Sky.
Yeah. I've never actually owned a Big Sky. I've never owned a Strymon.
Instead, he had the likes of Pete Cornish, you know, supplying him, and which we're going to talk about some of your favorite builders, your favorite builders now. I mean, you mentioned Pete Cornish earlier on, and you mentioned Keeley, and who do you admire today?
Definitely Keeley. Robert is probably the closest. You know, he has helped me out so much. Like, you know, from the initial advice on the, you know, how to take the Tweed drive to the next level, to the one actually saying, Sheldon, don't ever throw a circuit away. You know, if you're having problems with the design, you know, something's going wrong, give me a call. You know, and then, you know, a lot of inspiration from guys like Brian Wampler, who, you know, he started off basically like me, you know, a guy that wanted to tweak stuff. It doesn't, you know, doesn't have an engineering degree. I don't think he has one now, but anyways, you know, just tweaking stuff and learning as you go, you know.
I think it comes from a passion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than a formal education. I think a lot of the, you know, that's, you need to have that passion there as much as anything, don't you? To want to find out and not get disheartened when the mistakes happen. It's part of the learning process, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's where I'm fortunate. You know, also you have a great father-in-law who does have the knowledge that I can call on anytime. You know, so
nice one. So, I mean, you've shown us some of your guitars, your Gold Top and the Fender. If you could own any guitar, so let's say Greenie, the Les Paul, the 59 Les Paul was available, or Clapton's Blackie Strat, or whatever. What guitar would you love to own?
Oh man, what guitar? You know, if it was a legendary guitar, I would probably go with my first love, the first guitar I ever bought. You know, which was inspired by Stevie Ray. His number one. You know, beat all to heck. You know, yeah. I mean, my Strat was the reason I originally had a black Strat, because I was also a huge Clapton fan. You know, so I had a black Strat in my hands, and then at the music store I was at, they had a sunburst behind the counter, and I was like, well, there's no way, that's a much more difficult paint job to do. I'm like, but I'll ask. I'm like, what's that one worth? They're like exactly the same. I'm like, I went and put the black one back, and I got the sunburst.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Stevie Ray was probably my first real guitar influence. Just the tone and the flamboyancy when he played.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, and on to the last questions. What's your favorite amp and why? Now, this might be, is it a Tweed?
I have never, I have tons of pedals that I've built. I've got a nice collection of guitars. I have never had a good amp. Like, I mean, the best amp I've ever owned is a Boss. Not Boss. I have currently, my bench amp is a Boss Katana, because I don't have to worry about the tubes blowing up if I'm shutting it on and off all day. And but is a Fender Blues Junior. That's the best amp I've ever owned, and it's decent. But I mean, I see behind you the orange. Is that a Rockerbird 50 or?
That's a Mark 1 Rockerbird 50. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I love the orange. But the dream app for me would probably, I've always loved the simplicity of the Fender Vibrolux 210s in there. It is just a clean amp. It's the vibe in there is just beautiful. And I've never owned one, so I've played through one many times, and I've loved it every single time. So yeah, I would say the 210. I think it's a 210 in the Vibrolux.
Yeah, it's amazing how amps differ, even within the same manufacturer's range. I mean, I think the first orange amp I ever owned was an AD30 HTC, which is 30 watts, 2 channels, and very vintage type sounding amp. And they talk about the orange tone, if you like, but I don't think today there's really, probably some of the purists are going to hate me for saying this, but kind of like an orange tone as much today.
Yeah.
That sounds very different to the AD30 HTC that I used to have. Completely different beast. The sustain, the harmonics, just very, very different. I played Fender. I had a Fender Twin very briefly, but beautiful amp, probably the most beautiful, clean sounding amp I've ever played through. But it just wasn't for me. But I think it was one of the best amps I've ever played was a Cornford Hurricane 20 watt. I think it was 18, 20 watts. Cornford Hurricane, absolutely beautiful amp. There's some wonderful amps out today, isn't there?
Yeah, and I mean there's some amps. There's a Canadian guy. I'm working on another circuit that is based on the Herzog. Randy Bachman used these amps. They're based out of Winnipeg. Why am I forgetting their name? I love it.
Because you put on the spot, it happens all the while. Don't worry about it. It'll come to you as soon as it finish. Yeah.
Guys, like this amp is total. It's like a real Canadian lineup. The guy that designed these amps and stuff for guys like Randy Bachman, he's long since passed away. But a friend of mine has an amp of his, and it's simple. It was based, I think, on Tweed, American style amp, but of course he put his own spin on things. It just you crank that thing up, it's got like 3 knobs on it, volume, tone, and volume, pre and post volume kind of a thing. Yeah, and it's just beautiful sounding. Yeah. So, and I'm just drawing a blank as to the name. So, I'm sure.
Don't worry, we'll sort it out. We'll put a graphic up on the video and say this one. You mentioned simplicity with, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like that. I mean, that's got quite a few sort of knobs and options for compared to some amplifiers, but I do just like the simplicity of an amp where you've got a preamp, power amp, maybe 3 EQ, and that's pretty much it. You know, I just like that simplicity, and that's what I've got with that. It's got a spring reverb knob on there as well, but that's pretty much it. I just like it nice and simple.
Yeah.
And so you've mentioned some fantastic artists and bands like Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and people like that. Are they the last 5 records you listened to, or what's the last 5 bits of music you have listened to?
I may get kicked out of the effects pedal. I've been listening to a lot of kind of country stuff lately, so
that's great. At least you didn't say the Pussycat Dolls.
No, and not the. If anybody likes the modern country that's on the radio station, I apologize, but I cannot listen. You know, I put on the radio station here, the country station, and I'm just like, oh, this is not. You know, where's the steel guitar? Where's the fiddles? And you know, so I like some of the older stuff. I say older, like 90s kind of, you know, where they still had the steel guitars playing. But you know, like I'm a huge Gordon Kennedy fan. He does a lot of writing with Garth Brooks and people like that down in Nashville. You know, I got to see Garth in concert. Took my wife to his concert last year, the only show he did in Canada, and I was living a guitar geek's dream. I was sitting right next to the guitar tech. So I was seeing all the guitars that, you know, the guy was getting ready to put on stage, and you know, I'm just like, oh, he's bringing out an SG now, you know. So Gordon Kennedy, I got a tweed drive to him shortly after that concert, and you know, Brad Paisley, you know, guys like that, you know, they're not your typical, I would say, your typical guitar country players. You know, they pay a lot of attention to their tone. You know, they're as picky. They don't, I guess, you know, what they used to do is they'd plug their guitar straight into the audio board and record it like that because people wanted it as clean as possible. These guys were like, no, I spend decades sculpting my sound. Why would I plug into a soundboard and leave it to the EQ?
Yeah.
You know?
I think country guitarists, I remember a friend of mine, his son said to me, he says, oh, what music should I kind of listen to? Like, he was just starting learning the guitar, and he said, oh, what sort of music should I kind of listen to pick up various difficult skills? I says, anything and everything. And I says, and because the young lad, he was into a lot of like really thrashy metal stuff. And I said, listen to some of the other sorts of music that you may not find, you might not listen to as such. Things like some of the country guitarists.
Yeah.
Some of the country pickers are phenomenal, and great guitarists.
Yeah.
And I love country music, and some of the more sort of poppy end of that type of music as well. I've got friends in the States. It's not country music as such, but I just wrote a note down here, a guy called Chris Stapleton.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And my friend in Alabama, he loves Chris Stapleton and introduced me to his music.
Yeah.
And also the Brothers Landreth, great band, and Keith Urban.
Yep.
Great American music.
Love Joey Landreth. His touch on slide guitar, just it makes me weep. I cannot play slide. And he actually just got my tweed drive. He did a live stream with Solid Gold Effects, and he had my tweed drive on there and played it a bit. So, but yeah, his touch on slide is just, it'll bring tears to your eyes.
Yeah, when you get to a good slide player, it's pretty phenomenal. I'm just thinking. No, actually, I've drawn a blank now on a slide player. I can't. I've just drawn a blank as well. Bonnie Raitt, I love her slide.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm going to have to look it up. I'll send it over to you. This slide player.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another guy that played with Joey. Ariel. I don't know how to.
Ariel Posen.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't want to butcher his last name. I couldn't remember how it was pronounced. But yeah, like him and Joey, very similar styles. Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah.
The names come to me. Roy Rogers.
Oh yes.
Brilliant slide player. Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't even attempt it.
I could watch that guy play slide all day. Fantastic slide player. So, but lovely. Well, look, thank you very much for your time. I hope that's been fun for yourself. It's certainly been fun for me getting to know a bit more about you and what you do and your work and music and everything else. What have you got planned for the rest of the week? Have you a busy week planned?
Shoveling myself out of my house. We got a lot of snow here. The kids are off. We've got our Remembrance Day. Well, we're not. There's not really much as far as ceremonies going on, public ceremonies. So Wednesday we have our Remembrance Day for veterans and war heroes and stuff like that. So on Wednesday we're going to take time for that. I've got a few pedals to get out here in the next day or so. So, and just waiting for a few shipments to come in so I can do a little bit more tweaking with this guy.
Excellent.
So that's kind of basically the week.
Great stuff. Well, look, thank you so much for giving your time to the group. I have no doubt members will find it of huge interest. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
So
my pleasure.
A goodbye from me, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.
Yeah, we'll see you online.
See you again.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.